Hey guys, this is Guitar Cheese here, and I'm going to be bringing you a Zerg versus Terran build order that I've been working on since the release of Legacy of the Void. And since we have another season of the same map pool, I feel it's appropriate to share it with you guys. It's pretty all-around solid, where you'll be working into a very strong economic position while dealing with almost all the threats Terran have without actually dying or scouting very much. So it's a pretty cool build. We're going to be walking through it here against. I don't have an opponent this game, but we're going to be going pretty in depth to the build order itself. So you're going to be starting off pretty much with standard Zerg play with a 17 hatchery. I open up with 13 Overlord, as many players do. But otherwise, it's going to be looking pretty standard up until about the 17 or 18 supply mark, where we're going to be making some changes to some of the standard builds you guys have probably seen throughout Legacy of the Void. So first off, 17 hatchery, as usual. And from this point, instead of going hatch gas pool, as is pretty common, we actually go for a gasless pool. I start rallying drones to my natural, so drones 17 and 18 go to the natural, and I actually build my spawning pool with this 18th drone. You can either go 18 pool or 19 pool. There's really not too much of a difference here. And from this point, you're just going to keep building drones until you hit 19 supply. And this 19th drone here is going to be rallied to your third hatchery. And we're going to be making a third hatchery right away with that. Continue building drones, so by the time this drone gets to your third base, you will be at 20 supply here. And you'll take that right away. From this point, continue making drones, and you're probably thinking, when do you build your Overlord? You actually don't make a second Overlord yet. We're going to move up to 22 drones, so 22 out of 22 supply, and we will temporarily supply block ourselves until this hatchery finishes. So we build a drone here. This hatchery finishes, you start your queens. So queen here and queen here. And we are still gasless. Now this is a key part of the build. We've hit 28 out of 28 supply, and we're going to be doing two things at basically the same time here. First, as soon as you hit 100 minerals right here, you're going to build an Overlord. And this Overlord should be rallied out in front of your natural expansion, so you can see Reapers and Hellions and stuff like that. And as soon as you build this Overlord at 100, you want to take a gas geyser at pretty much the same time. Now, if you're wondering why we're specifically taking this gas geyser, I just take it because I'm rallying drones from my main to this base, and it takes a little less APM to be managing an economy of 16 drones in the main, and then an economy down here if the drones aren't already moving from the natural to the expansion. Sorry, the main base to the expansion. On top of that, why are we taking the gas at 28 supply? This gas actually lines up exactly with 6 Hellions from a Terran player. If they're playing a standard Reaper into Reactor Hellion, as soon as they hit 6 Hellions, your ling speed will finish. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as this replay goes on, but we will be using this gas timing to play as safely as possible into what Terran can throw at us. So, moving from here, our Overlord is going to be finishing shortly. We are stuck at 28. If I'm going to back up here a second, I did forget to mention another key element here. At 26 supply, we are making 2 pairs of lings. I did forget to mention this. So we build our 2 queens like this, and we're at 26 supply. And our next 2 larvae and 2 extra supply we have are going to go into Zerglings here. So I'm going to switch to our production so you can see that. So we do have 2 lings building. This is to obviously ward off early Reaper. I mean, Reaper is pretty standard nowadays. So even though we do have this 3 hatchery setup, we're not going to be taking drone losses to the ling, or sorry, the Reaper. So, again, we're supply blocked at 28, but we have these 2 pairs of lings to delay a Reaper until our queens themselves pop out, which is pretty nice how it works out. If they are going 3 racks Reaper, we will talk about how that works a little bit later. But for now, just the standard 1 Reaper is pretty easy to stop with this setup. Moving on, our Overlord will finish, and you're going to continue making drones. We're up to 32 supply, generally, when these 2 queens finish. Yeah, a little slow on this larva being built here. As soon as these 2 queens finish, you want to build 2 more queens and then send these queens to your natural expansion. As I mentioned at the beginning of the replay, you are going to be defending this central area pretty easily with just queens and stuff like that, as opposed to a map like, what's the gold base map? Is it Central Protocol? Whichever map has the 2 gold bases, you cannot use a setup like this because your 3rd base is really exposed. Anyway, I think it's Prion Terraces is what it's called. So right here, you'll notice, if we back up just a second, we did supply block ourselves again on purpose. So we were at 36 out of 36 supply, and as soon as we hit that point, this 3rd base finishes with enough minerals generally to make a queen right away. So you build that queen. So now if you take count, we have 3 queens building and 2 queens on the field, which goes up to 5 queens total, which is going to turn out to be really nice down the line when we're dealing with Hellions and Liberators. So you build this 3rd queen, and as soon as you build that queen, you want to build another Overlord, which I do here. So 38 out of 42, you make an Overlord. Continue making drones. Obviously, there's no pressure happening, but you use these lings and queens to ward off Reaper. And then your first 2 creep tumors should be placed right here at the front, as close to the edge as you can, so you can start creep spreading. Now, our next Overlord actually is at 42 supply, so you'll see we're stuck at 42 again. And that's where we actually build our next Overlord. Here we go. And just in case you're newer to Zerg, you generally build your Overlord right as soon as your next Overlord is going to be finishing. So it just lines up well as soon as you're about to be supply blocked, a new Overlord finishes. So here we built an Overlord at 42. We put down our creep tumors, and then our new queens finish, inject, and then this will inject soon. And as soon as we hit 100 gas here, we started laying speed. So we don't pull off of gas, we leave our gas mining. Just as a kind of timestamp, you should be about 42 to 46 supply when you're starting this laying speed. From here, just continue making drones. There should be no real dangers right now. If they come with 2 Reapers, 2 Hellions, your queens will easily ward those off. Even up to 4 Hellions, if you have 3 queens here at your natural with 4 slowlings, you can ward them off pretty easily. Now from here, we continue making drones. I think we make an Overlord at 52 here. Or do we make a Baneling Nest first? Okay, we make a Baneling Nest first. So, with our first 50 gas after mining laying speed, we go ahead and throw down a Baneling Nest. And although it's not extremely popular in this metagame, Hellbats are still a possibility, like the Hellbat Marine drops. And this Baneling Nest timing allows us to have it finished in time, like with plenty of time to be able to morph our Banelings and defend it. A key thing to note is your Overlord positioning here. If you stick an Overlord way out in front, this Overlord, I'm not sure where is heading, but this one's coming down here. You want to kind of be very aware of what your opponent's doing with their Hellions. So if they decide to morph them into Hellbats, you have time to morph your Lings. So we start our Baneling Nest. It's time for our next 2 Creep Tumors. We build a Creep Tumor, a forward one again here. In a second, right? Okay, good. So we build a forward creep tumor just like that. And we build our 4th creep tumor right here. And this is important to connect your bases when you're on a heavy queen composition. And from the beginning, you want to make sure you start getting your bases connected so you can maneuver around and defend versus things such as Liberators or Banshees. It helps also with Hellion run-bys, but our speed kind of take cares of that. So, like I said, Overlord on 52, continue making drones from here. At this point, we have 17 workers on this base. 16 or 17, both are fine, because we will be taking this gas geyser. From this point, start rallying your drones into this 3rd base. What I was doing, I had this one base rallied into here, and the other 2 were rallied down to here. But as soon as this is saturated on minerals, start rallying to this 3rd base. And continue spreading creep. We overlord again at 58. Yep, just built another one. Overlord finishes. Continue making drones. We can make another overlord here in a second. The more practice you get with this build, the better overlord timings start to work out. So keep spreading creep. I actually missed a cycle on this creep tumor, but ideally you would spread this up to here to start connecting the bases. And then with your next 100 gas, you're going to be starting a lair. This lair timing is pretty important for things like baneling speed, your spire, and other things such as moving into hive. You actually get a really fast hive with my personal build preference, but this gas lineup makes it so it has a pretty fast lair, and that's just really nice in general to have. From here, we hit saturation on this base. As a rule of thumb for my own macro play, I always build my 2nd gas geyser as soon as I start this lair. So you build the gas geyser, instantly build 3 drones to send to it. And we actually don't take all of our gases quite yet. And I'll talk about why in a minute here. So continue making drones, continue making overlords. I'm not going to talk too much about overlords from here. You kind of just build them whenever you're about to have another one finish. It's kind of just a rule. And I build 3 spore crawlers blindly every ZvT that I do this build. Just because of things like Banshees and Liberators. Primarily Liberators, obviously, as they're good on this map. I build them as soon as I have mineral saturation on each of my bases, so I'm not hurting my economy to do this. I had 16 here, well 17, built a geyser, built a spore. I did have 16 here, now it's 15, and then I had over 16 here, because this is where I'm building my drones to. This spore timing is pretty good for dealing with Banshees, and it'll come before the Banshees show up. And Liberators will be warded off pretty easily. With your queen support, you have your extra 2 queens here, and you have 3 other queens to help ward that off. On top of this is the point in time where I'm making Pliant Zerglings. If you notice that my wing speed is about to finish, I mentioned this is when Terrans have 6 Hellions. So in about 5 seconds, their 6 Hellions will be at your side of the map. You do need to make blindlings, or else they're going to just YOLO past your queens and try to kill stuff. And we don't want that. So we do make blindlings here. Instead of trying to fully saturate our gases, we do need these lings, as well as dealing with hellbats and stuff like that. So I personally move up to 12 to 16 lings. It's kind of up to you how you do it. But there's no really correct way to be making lings. I think this game I just make 14. And from this point, we are fully saturated on minerals, and we are going to get ready to take our gas geysers. Now, one thing I like to do, and this is what Koreans do, is what actually kind of separates a lot of Korean macro from foreigner macro, is they build the drones in the base before taking the gas geysers. Instead of just building gas geysers and then building 3 to each, and then they have 14 on minerals, they make sure that they have the drone count necessary to support the gas geysers. So you'll see it jumps up to 20, and then I actually build to 22 here. Obviously there's more drones in production, but you do want to be building the drones before you actually take gas geysers. It just makes it so you have a lot more minerals in general, and it lets you be a lot more flexible. At this point, I should be taking a macro hatch pretty shortly here. Let's see, macro hatch, 2 more gases. As you see, my drone count's going above 16. I do have the drones building in order to be taking our gas geysers here. And our lair finishes right now. You'll notice we don't have our Evo chambers yet. We have our defensive wings. Everything's nice and set up to defend stuff. And what I do right away is get a spire. Spire right away. You want to spire as soon as possible, so you're able to be defending versus Liberator range builds, which are fairly popular on this map. The faster you have a spire, the faster you can clear that out. So you don't want to delay this at all. Did I screw up my gases here? No, I'm good. Okay, so as soon as you build that spire, you're free to throw down 2 Evo chambers. Notice I'm replacing these drones right away, so we're going to be back up to 16 in a second here. And notice we haven't taken our 4th yet. We could take it very shortly, but not quite yet. So with our next 150 gas, right away, you want to get this baneling speed. So it's spire, then baneling speed. And we get that baneling speed as soon as possible so you can defend versus things like the 2-base marine tank builds. Your baneling speed will finish in time for most timings there, and you do want that baneling speed versus tanks and medevacs, obviously. So get that baneling speed right away. And from here, you're able to play however you like. So I get the spire right away. If you're a Roach Ravager player, feel free to throw down your Roach Warren, do whatever you like, but you've pretty much set yourself up for success, assuming you haven't taken too much damage and you've positioned things properly, like your Zerglings and Queens. It's pretty easy to get into these nice positions, and it really plays out well. If you look at the units tab, we have 68 drones. I've noticed most Terrans who go 3 command center will be around 50 at this point, and the Terrans who are 2-base all-ending will only be at like 44 to 46, and you're able to deflect everything with this setup. So I like it a lot, and I've used it pretty consistently on a map like this, Orbital Shipyard and Ruins of Ceres, where you have this nice centralized location if you have to defend with queens. And that's pretty much the gist of it. One thing I do want to talk about is 3-Rax Reaper, and I know it's a scary build, particularly when you don't have a gas geyser this fast. And I'll tell you right now, if the player you're playing against is really good or better than you, and they go 3-Rax Reaper, you might pretty much auto lose. But if your opponent is like not particularly good, or they don't have Reaper controlled really down, you can actually defend this very easily just by building queens. We have this 3 hatchery setup, and you just build 3 queens, so you're up to 5, and 5 queens actually deals very well with like 6 or 7 Reapers. And if you can delay them long enough until you have your ling speed done, you deflect everything and you actually end up okay. Not ahead, obviously, but you can survive and play out the game. In my experiences, though, if I've done this build versus like a Korean GM Terran player and they decide to 3-Rax Reaper me on this map, which is uncommon in the first place, but it's really hard to survive. So despite that, this build does not face 3-Rax Reaper too often, just because it does it on maps that are not particularly common to see 3-Rax Reaper. So it's okay to do this quite a bit. Otherwise, that's pretty much the gist of it. If anyone has any questions, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. And hopefully this build can help some of the Zerg brethren out if you're looking for a nice solid way to play ZvT. So thank you everyone for watching.